So we'll call the between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woolastook, along which live Woolastook, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected new season, we are all busy with everything the changing season entails. As the wind changes, there are new beginnings, such as the beginning of the new school year. It has been over 500 days since we started off September with a regular school year. And I would like just to take a moment to recognize the educators, the support staff, and the administrative leaders working to make this school year as successful and positive as possible for our communities. And actually, we have one of those leaders here today, Amanda Ham, our DEF representative. Hi, Amanda. I would also like to acknowledge the parents who held up the educational and social sky for our children over the past 500 days of changing and challenging school situations. And lastly, I would like to recognize the resilience of the students, big and small, for everything that they've gone through over the last 500 days and the sacrifices they have made and continue to make for the greater good. I hope this school year is the best one yet for all of you. Item 4, record of attendance. Let the record show that all councillors are in attendance with the exception of Councillor Day, who is absent with cause. Item 5, agenda approval. That the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of September 13th, 2021 as presented.
Your Worship, this afternoon received a hard copy of a letter that's about Thanksgiving. Given that our next meeting is about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I'd like to ask Council's indulgence to add it to the agenda.
Okay, should we add it?
Just make it the last one in 11. I don't recall which.
Okay, so 11I.
That sounds about right.
Okay, and so Thanksgiving letter. Okay. So I have a motion for the amended agenda with the addition of the Thanksgiving letter at item 11I. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. And second, thank you, Councillor McIntosh Warren. So I can see it every time. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 6, disclosure of conflict of interest. Is there any? There being none, let's move on to item 7, public hearings, presentations, delegations. 7A is our CMP report, and we have with us Corporal Rogers Marsh.
Hi, everybody. So we're not doing the staff report, the monthly staff reports anymore. You guys are aware of that, so we're just doing the quarterly reports, but certainly if there's things that you are looking for in particular, please reach out. Lizette can look into any requests that you have as far as staff. Any questions for me?
So through the mayor to constable, corporal, or sergeant?
Oh, no, I'm corporal.
Corporal,
Yeah.
okay. I just have a question about accessing the police department on a daily basis. I'm wondering if what the hours are.
For the detachment, you mean?
Yeah.
So there's obviously police officers that are on all the time, and when we're not on, we're on call. So if there's an emergency, we're available. But as far as the detachment, there's only an administrative and person that's available on Wednesdays from 9 to 3.
Okay.
So Corporal, when I met with Staff Sergeant Regan, he indicated to us that there would be administrative support on Wednesdays. but also that Sergeant Sampson would be in attendance at the detachment Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 for people to answer the door.
Yes,
So is that the case?
so that's, like, he works Monday to Friday, that's his schedule, unless he's off, unless he's on training, unless he's out on a call, depending on how many people we have during the day shift, he will go out and respond on calls too, so, technically, yes, he's supposed to be at the detachment Monday to Friday during the day, but things can take him away from the detachment depending on what's going on.
But when he is there in the building, he should be answering the door, correct?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Yes.
So just to build on what the councilor and the mayor said, I've received complaints that nobody's answering the door at any time through the week from multiple people.
Okay,
So that's a concern that I've heard, and I've even had pictures sent to me about the sign saying Wednesday, that's fine. But just to let you know, I've received complaints, and I understand council's received complaints as well, that nobody is answering the door,
right.
regardless of the day or the time.
Yeah, and that's possible. Like I said, there's times that maybe Luke isn't there, we can't, you know, as the sergeant, he's got other responsibilities, so it's unfortunate the situation that we're in. We only have an admin that's available on Wednesdays. If it's something that's urgent, or if people have a complaint or an investigation that we need to look into, they're encouraged to call the toll-free number and put in a request that way, and then we'll make arrangements to meet them. So if it's something more urgent and it's not like an administrative thing like a criminal record check, then it's probably better for them to call the number.
If I could respond to that, one of the reasons that we spoke to Staff Sergeant Regan about the staffing of the detachment had to do with the challenges surrounding the dispatch system and the difficulties people have actually reaching somebody. So he did indicate to us that one of the ways that this was going to be mitigated was to make sure that the door would be answered the majority of the time, not the minority of the time.
Right. So that's, unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you. I would maybe suggest reaching in to Luke and Staff Sergeant Regan and bring that forward to them. Like I'm no longer Monday to Friday, I'm on shift with my team, so like tonight I'm working nights. It's just an unfortunate situation that we're in right now, that we lost our admin position. That was a decision made by district, so if you have concerns or you're getting complaints, my advice would be to reach into the senior management team. So that would be Sergeant Sampson and Staff Sergeant Glenn Regan, to advise them. I mean, I'll certainly let them know, but I think it's probably best that it come from you guys.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any? Yes.
I just have a quick one. I was just wondering, since you're only getting quarterly reports, not monthly, are you still going to be appearing here monthly or just quarterly? How is that?
It's up to you guys. If you feel that you want to have somebody here on a monthly basis just to kind of check in and see how things are going, if there's things that you'd like to bring up, I think it's a good idea to continue. And if you feel like maybe it's every other month or every quarter, then we can look at that. But certainly, Sergeant Sampson is available to attend, and like this evening he wasn't available, so I made sure that I attended. So if that's something that you guys want for us to continue, we certainly can. If you feel it's beneficial to meet with us face to face and if you have questions or concerns, I think it's a good time to kind of have those discussions.
No, absolutely. Councillor, no, you're good. Councillor Bailey, you good? John, you have anything else?
Just a man make a suggestion, Mayor, that perhaps through Constable Rogers Marsh, that we invite the staff sergeant here during the council night in public to discuss the level of service that the community is now receiving from the RCMP, which is lesser than what it was a year ago.
Yes, I would agree with that. And one of the things that the staff sergeant said was the reason that the administrative staff was being cut back was so that they could spend more time processing some of the paperwork surrounding incidents and things like that, which would free up the officers to respond more. So, we want to make sure that actually follows through, that, with the challenges that the dispatch system is facing and people not being able to reach anybody, And, I actually had a fairly high-level official reach out to me lately and give me their card to give to, it was Larry Tremblay, because she was unable to reach anyone through the dispatching system. So it's a definite challenge, and it does relate to certainly a reduced level of service that we're concerned about. So yes, we would like that.
Yes, so do you feel that it should be a town council meeting for him to attend, or do you feel like it's something that you guys should schedule sort of?
No, I would like him to appear in public as the CEO has suggested, so that we can relay that he can, answer the questions in public forum.
Absolutely. I will definitely send a message to him and I'll CC.
Sure.
That works.
Thank you, Julie.
Alright.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
So if I could have a motion that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield accept this information as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Second. Thank you, Councillor Bailmans. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? The motion is carried. Item 7B, presentation by Amanda Ham on the outdoor rink. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, council. I'm just going to put the caveat on here. I wear a lot of different hats, so I'm just representing myself, not just. I am representing myself, Amanda Ham, a resident here in Bay-Westfield. I live on 10 Edgemount Drive here in the town. And I want to go over some preliminary work that I had did primarily back in 2019 regarding the town to really look seriously at offering a public rink, outdoor rink for our residents. So the project summary of what we looked at from a scope perspective, I don't know if I have control, there we go, is really the installation of an outdoor public rink located on the soccer field next to the River Valley Community Center. The two primary stakeholders that this would serve would be your leisure skaters as well as some pickup hockey. Some of the project benefits that were identified when we initially looked at this is really to increase the winter outdoor recreation opportunities for all residents, both young and old. Really to address the lack of available ice time at the River Valley Community Center during peak times when families would have availability to skate, primarily the Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., and on the weekend, Saturday to Sunday, 12 to 8. It is willing to note that there is a public skate that happens typically on Sunday afternoons for an hour, but other than that, ice time is booked. It's at full capacity, and that's a great news story that our community center is so well used. But just a use case back at this time, with some of my involvement in volunteer work with the schools, we were trying to collaborate an elementary skate where all families could come out with all their students with Westfield School, Grand Bay Primary, Inglewood School, and we couldn't find an hour of ice time in that window of time that we could get our families together. We booked in Harbor Station. So our community went to St. John to host our family skate. So definitely a lack of availability. The outdoor rink would overcome the high cost barriers of what we've seen within organized hockey, organized figure skating, and speed skating. This particular location is within proximity of 3 schools, again, Inglewood, Primary, River Valley Middle School, 3 early childhood education centers, and also the newly launched Boys and Girls Club River Valley Youth Center. We all know being active, an active community increases the health of our residents, and that's something you as a municipality and as well as a provincial entity and even the federal entity has gotten around this, wrapped their hands around that. We need to be active. The soccer field at River Valley Middle School has established lighting. That lighting is on in the evening, so it really opens up that window of time between 5 and 8 p.m. when folks and residents have the availability to go out and enjoy skating. It also will leverage existing restroom facilities and canteen facilities that we have at the River Valley Community Center, and it also enhances our central recreation hub model that the municipality has put a lot of great work and effort into establishing. So when we sat down and started modeling out what this might look like, there were really 4 things that really came to mind that would have to be investigated and looked at. And one component is insurance. The second component is who would be the primary operator. And the third component would be you could have a secondary operator of volunteers that are supporting it. And the fourth component, who would actually purchase the infrastructure and manage that. The recommendation that bubbled to the surface back in 2019 was number 2, where we'd see the River Valley Community Center purchase the insurance. The primary operator would be the River Valley Community Center, and there would be a separate outdoor rink committee that would be the secondary operator, and the infrastructure would be purchased by the town of Bay-Westfield. The rationale between that, for that recommendation is the River Valley Community Center are the ice experts in our community. They understand that they're an established group. They have a good governance model, and they would have room for a storage area with shovels and rakes and buckets that could be there. And they also have well-rounded communication channels to our community, kind of voice the activities that are going on in that area, and have taken a center role with some of the recreation hub things that are going on there. So myself and other stakeholders started going through this project execution. We went through this explore stage, so how are we going to do this as part of the explore phase? And we really recognized early on that it really had to be a holistic community collaboration project. So we worked with some stakeholders with the town of Bay-Westfield. Gary would have provided a letter with input to town council at the time, and that was taken away. We also engaged with the Bay-Westfield Volunteer Fire Department, Anglophone South School District South. We also engaged with a group of community volunteers and the River Valley Community Center. So where those landed, I think with the town of Bay-Westfield, that was approved in the November 2019 budget. I think you guys go for a budget at that time for $5,000 that would be allocated with a bunch of conditions for the 2019-2020 season. The town was looking that they were interested that they could facilitate the setup of the rink, the disassembly of the rink, and the storage of the rink for off-season. The River Valley Community Center, or the Bay-Westfield Fire Department would agree to flood the surface as per kind of best effort, subject to the availability of resources, similar agreement that they have with the Four Corners rink. ASCS, primarily the principal at River Valley Middle School, which owns the soccer field, provided the town with conditional approval on January 18th, 2019 to use the field. The conditions that entailed was we had the field had to be returned in good condition. There must be a liability insurance policy in place. The risk and use cannot interfere with school use and parking. Town vehicles would be the only vehicles allowed on the field, and the rink needed to be dismantled as soon as possible in the springtime. I worked on a group of community volunteers. I had a spreadsheet with over 40 volunteers that I kind of put their hand up to say, hey, I would help with the rink, the ice surface, whether that be clearing or prepping it, keeping up with different maintenance. And I had volunteered to put my hand up to kind of coordinate those activities to make sure they were taken care of and manage the volunteer communications. And the River Valley Community Center, we asked for this entity was to purchase rink materials with funds received from the town, so the $5,000 would get funded down to the River Valley Community Center. They would purchase the bladder, sidewalls, snow shovels, rakes, signage, and the insurance policy. They would need to provide the storage and access for snow shovel and rakes, signage, and perform a daily site inspection, and complete any field turf repair if required. Now you will see that this was rejected when you go through the other slides as you go through them. And the reason why this was rejected is not that they weren't on board with the idea, because the River Valley Community Center loved the idea and for rink, they're totally supportive of that. But their focus at the time was really on their strategic plan, and they were not in a position that they could take on any additional responsibility at that time. So if we keep going through there to the costing model. So I had worked with some SMEs that had some knowledge within outdoor rinks and primarily with Grand Bay Home Hardware, a local construction entity or construction store. I worked with Ian at the town of Grand Bay, or town of Quispamsis, and also worked with the Westfield West and East LSC because they both have established rinks to get some understanding. So with kind of this proof of concept that we were proposing, there was a rink ladder, 32 by 100, approximately $400 at the time. There was some wood for sidewalls, shovels and rakes, signs, insurance policy, and even with that, within the $5,000 that the town had allocated, there was a reserve fund of $1,800 in the event there was any church repairs required. So pretty standard costing model. So now we're here today. We went through a pandemic, so last year I didn't bring this back to town council because we were fluctuating between red and yellow, and really probably not the best time to kickstart an outdoor rink project. But here we are again. I know you guys are going to go into planning in November. I think this is a great opportunity to have an outdoor rink, so I'd like to see this back, kind of getting a little bit more momentum and hopefully kind of within your lens and line of sight for kicking off in 2022, this winter season that's coming. I did include a proof of concept. There's some pictures there. So in February of 2019, we had already started this kind of project in January, and Mother Nature gave us the gift of a prototype. In my day job, we always do little prototypes to say, hey, is this a great initiative? Is this going to work? And Mother Nature presented us with this, and we had hundreds of people that came. They skated at night, they skated during the day. Great location, lots of parking, very accessible. We have a number of residents that live in apartments along Eagleside Drive. They can walk to this location. It's right in the heart of our community, our recreation hub that we've created. I think if we could get this to go forward, it would be great. During that time, we did some community feedback. I know I'm limited to 10 minutes, and I'm probably over. So I can let you guys go through that on your own accord. But these were just information and feedback that came back off of different social media platforms on the community really rallying behind this idea to get the outdoor community rink off the ground.
Thank you, Amanda, for that comprehensive presentation. I'll open the floor now for questions to our presenter. Anybody have any questions? Councillor Belka?
A question to the mayor, to Amanda. Amanda, is the concept of a Zamboni, has that ever been thought of? Can the Zamboni up the rivers, the arena, be used on an open field?
I think it probably could, but in this prototype that we're discussing with the sizing that we put into the presentation, it wouldn't be feasible, and we wouldn't want to put any damage on that new Zamboni that we just purchased. What we did do last year is we did a proof of concept that a couple of friends of mine are engineers, and they had a little rink that was just down in off at Epworth Park. Is we created this cooler system where you had a cooler, you put some hot water in, and it had some things that kind of angled, and you took it and you could repair the ice. It was very simplistic, it was easy to kind of facilitate, and I think for the ice size that we're looking at, that would facilitate it, meet our needs of what we need to do to keep that into good standing. So you could put the Zamboni in, I don't think I would recommend it. Any questions?
Thank you, Amanda. A question, Your Worship, to our CAO, to the mayor. With the town's insurance policy, the general liability insurance, could it cover something like this, or a rider be attached to it, such that we wouldn't have to have this new initiative secure its own insurance, which can be cost prohibitive?
John?
Worship, I actually looked into this last year, not just doing an outdoor rink, but actually insuring RVCC through the town. The risk management tools we have don't allow us to do that. When I was in Saskatchewan, we had different risk management tools, and we could have insured that without any problems. We could even, if they have a winter festival, that festival could have been insured under the town's umbrella rather than the organizers having to get separate insurance. So what I'm saying, Councillor, is we don't have the toolbox from a risk mitigation perspective to be able to do that. However, if we do get a different model in, then we could look at doing umbrella coverage, not just for an outdoor rink, but, reducing the burden on the organizers and the governance board of the arena as well. But we don't have that capacity right now.
Thank you.
Okay.
That answer your question, Councillor Bell?
Certainly does, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Schultz?
Just a quick one. Thinking about this at the time, we have to RBCC for, is there, have you got their views yet?
I don't think they have capacity left to do this without it. That's all I can say. I don't think I think they're still in a position that they don't have the manpower capacity to do this. But I don't mind taking it back at council's will to present that to the board.
Thank you. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence?
So you said in 2019, the ASDS was on board, the fire department was on board, volunteers were on board. Is that still the case?
As far as I'm aware, I haven't did any follow-ups with those entities, so we wanted to move forward, we'd have to do a double check with those. I think, Gary, you have the letter from ASA, from Anglophone South, so you could just put another call in to Trudy to kind of shore that up. With my volunteer base, I can give the commitment that I'm on board to kind of work with that. The same 40 volunteers may not be, because as you know, people are transient, most of our parents that have young children, a few years have kind of passed, so their children may not be into that. There's a host of other residents that are coming up, and you guys have that model that you can circulate. So, by all means, I would be willing to put my efforts forward.
So you feel you would have enough volunteers to keep it going?
Yes, John?
Just responding to the councillor. We don't have any records of the fire department doing that. So that would come back and I would bring that to council if this is something council supports. The fire department doing it, pending of course the chief saying that they have the capacity to do that. There would be a liability though. Water on an ice surface does lead to falls, and so there would be potential liability for volunteers or for one of our officers.
Am I allowed to comment?
Yes.
Okay. Just 2 points that you may want to look at is Moncton has a model that they allow with the volunteers, and it's kind of like a train-the-trainer program, but make sure you're in conformance to whatever insurance protocols are in place. So take a look at that program, and I think that's the model that you might want to pay close attention to.
Thank you, Amanda.
I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
You said you spoke with Pam Rosse. They do a rink every year. Did they mention how feasible it is, how many days the weather is conducive to the rink?
So I did talk to Dana, and Dana must have, and I'm not familiar with municipal operations and how insurance, so they must have an umbrella policy, because Dana had alluded to the policy for the rinks are covered by the policy of the BMX park, like it's just all one umbrella policy. So that's how they manage that. To answer your question with respect to the outdoor, maybe their feasibility study, initially they were doing a rollout rink that would be weather dependent, and the feasibility of that is our weather is very, it can change. We're through global warming, and we have a really great session, and like last year, case in point, we had lots of skating that went on from January right to March. It's variable. So in their assessment in Cliff Francis, they decided that it's going to be really popular with our residents, and they went with a refrigerated system. So they put the investment in there. Obviously, not a lot more than $5,000. My recommendation to council would be, is if we can get this off the ground. Again, going back to my professional career, let's do a small prototype. Living in investment, let's get that up and running. Let's see the value that it presents to the community. How well is it utilized? Then from there, if you say, holy smokes, this is nothing. Okay, we move along. Or if we had a ton of people that came out and they utilized this facility, then we looked and said, okay, well, the weathers are variable because we only had, maybe 6 weeks of operations. Then maybe you take the next step and look at a long-term kind of North Star strategy of getting it into a fully refrigerated system.
Thank you. Councillor Balcom.
Who would police it? Who would police people off after a soft spell and animals and deers walk on it at night time? Who's going to keep an eye on it all winter, really? Who's going to maintain it?
Amanda?
I think that if you're following the Moncton model, it really, once you go through that trainer session with your volunteer base is after that. You get lots of signage that says enter at your own risk,
And some of the training that would come down is you do a marking of where those soft spots are until they're fully repaired that they can be utilized. But it does fall within the volunteer days. Usually, if you get to that 4-part model, the primary organizer, albeit if it is the town of Bay-Westfield, will do a daily check-in and kind of make note of any of those soft spots or anything that need to be attended to.
Well, an animal was on there, or a deer or kids at nighttime walk on soft ice, and you know a lot of soft spots then, a lot of repair too, so.
Thank you, Councillor Bellman. Do you have any more questions for Amanda? Amanda, I have a quick question. Do you have any data on like the last 3 to 5 years in terms of temperature fluctuations, so that we can have an idea of the number of days that it would actually be usable?
You know what, I don't have that on me right now, but I can get that to you, and who should I submit that to? Okay, John, and you want, what scope do you want? Because I think I go back 5 years, do you want the 5 years?
5 years, yeah. Thank you, Amanda. You're welcome. And I just want to make a comment, Amanda, you know, the last council was obviously supportive of recreation initiatives, and they initiated the Parks and Rec Master Plan process, which we are now in the process of finalizing. We should be receiving that plan, final plan soon. Community engagement from residents, stakeholders, groups, etc., like that, they all had input in the Parks and Rec Master Plan. So anything that we do in terms of implementation is going to be based on that plan and the input that we got from the residents. So our budget is going to kind of depend a lot on those priorities. So and the rink may be one of them. So thank you very much for your presentation, and I know you put a lot of work into it, and you put a lot of heart into it, and you're clearly very passionate about that.
Yeah, and just one comment for me, and I said this to John, you know, I have a privileged lifestyle, so, and you know, I'm fortunate and blessed for that. Every day last year, my kids and my family, we enjoyed outdoor skating. I just want to bring that all to my community, and I want to help, at least in a volunteer capacity, with some partners to bring that joy to all of our residents, not just the chosen few that can afford to put in their own rinks.
Well, thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you.
So could I have a motion that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield accept this information as presented?
So moved.
Councillor Bailman, second. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 7C, Brandy Point Speed Petition. They have a motion that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield address this item during item 9A. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Second. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 8, minutes of previous meetings. That the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of August 9th, 2021 as presented. Have a motion, please. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Second. Thank you, Councillor Balcom. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 9, unfinished business. Item A, Brandy Point State. We have 2 motions before you.
Choose one of them.
Oh, choose one of them. Okay, sorry, move this. 1 second here.
Your Worship,
Yes.
I just suggest that council discuss this and decide on the motion.
Okay,
Everybody just agree to suspend normal rules
okay,
and to discuss this ahead of time to determine which direction we want to go.
okay. Fair enough. So with the 2 potential motions postponed till the end of debate, I will open the floor to discussion. Councillor Valence, would you like to speak first?
Yes, I said the road is, like I said again, is too narrow for a single lane, like a roadway, so speed has to be reduced on a single lane road. It's not, and I found out, did some measurement, it's not 5 meters, it's 4.2. So it's 2 feet narrower than I was told by Crandall Engineering. So I wonder if Crandall Engineering even went down the road and inspected when they did the report. So I don't know who you find out whether they were there inspecting after they made the report up. Were they even there? That's my question.
John, are you able to answer that question?
Your Worship, I'm going to have to defer or delegate that question to the Works Commissioner.
Yes, on that, I guess I couldn't say for, I assume and I would presume that they've been down there, but I'd have to check to verify that 100% that they were there, or somebody was there on behalf. I'm sure, but I'm not.
Councillor Bale, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. Another thing is when you're in the report, your Crandall Road up, it said it had gravel shoulders, and it does not have gravel shoulders. So, I mean, if it had gravel shoulders and the width was that width, why we write in the report is 5 meters and has gravel shoulders when it apparently doesn't? And then has a lot of trees close to the road, within a foot of the road. So there's a lot of obstacles and a lot of turns or sharp turns there to make it. I don't understand. It's just an anomalous situation where kids can walk, or if a bike went down the road, the 10-meter rule or 10 feet, 3-meter rule. How does it affect that kids driving the bike on the little narrow street? So I mean, there's so much play there. So the speed is a factor there. And after you've seen the graph of the speed graph by Crandall, there's 50% of people who drive up to 85 kilometers an hour on that road. It's just really alarming to see that on a report. So it says that 40 kilometers an hour is a reasonable speed for the road. It's not. I mean, 30 is more reasonable, and at least you try to enforce it, or I don't know, but it's wrong.
Thank you, Councillor Bale. John?
I'm not sure what the question is.
Is there a question in there, John?
Yes, I like the road down to 30 kilometers an hour.
Oh, okay. But within the statement you just made, is there a question for staff to address?
Or just to make sure that Crandall went down there and then to address the problem, or it said, because it put signs up.
I guess what I heard the Works Commissioner say is, and I would suggest that Crandall was likely there to say 100% that they were there. That's a certainty that both of us would feel uncomfortable. I can't imagine doing a job without actually being on site. That's all.
Yeah. Well, that raised the question. If it says gravel side, like gravel roads on both sides, and it's not, it says he wasn't there because if it's gravel, I'll ask anybody to drive down the road. We suggested anybody in our council to go down the road.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
So the report from Crandall indicates that a posted lower speed limit probably won't result in the actual lowering of speed anyway. So if the goal is an actual reduction in speed, maybe traffic calming features should be looked at. I guess it's our question.
John?
I thought there was a question there. It sounds to me like there's already traffic calming in place in the sense that it's not a straight road, it's a narrow road, which automatically, as we've discussed with other roads, supposed to make people slow down. A significant majority of people already travel lower than the posted speed limit. And that's not an issue. Traffic calming can be expensive. At the end of the day, Councillor Bailman, and the council, this is a neighborhood issue. It's a dead-end road. Perhaps a neighborhood meeting to talk about why are some of you speeding so much. This isn't a through road, it's a municipal road, but it goes to somebody's house at the end of the street. And I can appreciate the concern if we, again, when we talk about, when we make bylaws that are legal and enforceable, we have trouble with the RCMP answering the door. Do we really expect to get them down on Brandy Point Road to say, hey, you're doing 38 and a 30? I don't know that that's a reasonable expectation. I think perhaps, a neighborhood meeting may be best to say, what's the best way that we can resolve this as a neighborhood? Because it is predominantly the neighbors who seem to be traveling in excessive speed. It's not me going for a tour, or anything like that. So I guess I'm just a little, in a little bit of wonder about, how much are we going to invest on a road where, I'm not sure, I think there's 15 or 17 homes along that road. So that'd be my suggestion to council. One, we can make bylaw, how are we going to enforce it? I don't see how we can enforce it. This is neighbors who are having problems amongst themselves with traveling in excessive speeds apparently. However, most of them do travel around 38 kilometers per hour, I think is the average speed. So I'm just, we can change it if you want, don't get me wrong. And if council wants to do that with the other single lane roads, of course we can do that. Now, when you change speed limits, what you need to do is automatically put up signs for different speed limits. So if they go from Brandy Point up to Ingleside, I think there's a 50K there, but there may not be a 50K going on to Station Street as an example. Well, then we're going to have to post more signs. And so a brief estimate that we did on how much it would cost to change all single lane roads, including the proper signage, is over $20,000. And again, the lanes are typically neighborhood issues, they're not collector lanes, it's not Ingleside or Williston or anything like that.
Thank you. Stephanie, did that answer your question? Yes. Deputy Mayor Toole.
I had a question, you answered it previously, which was the cost of doing this for all the streets. Cause I think speeding is a problem, but again, on this road compared to others, I don't know how much. There's been a lot of work done on this road, and from what I get from the reports is, if it is lowered to 30, it's not going to change anything. From what I agree with the CAO, and that it's difficult to make a decision to change something that's not going to actually address the problem. It's going to put a new signs up, but it's not, according to the reports, it's not going to actually lower the speed, because most people are going agreeing with the speed limit, and if you do lower it, there's going to be no enforcement of the lower speed limit anyway. So that's where I'd be troubled to make a change that's actually not going to solve the problem, or there might be a better way to solve the problem, whether it's an neighborhood meeting or whether it's a specific identification of who the speeders are by the neighbors and reporting them directly. I think when we make a decision and we're going to make a change, we really have to make sure it's an evidence-based change that's actually going to result in the change we want. And I'd hate to make a change, just put up this 30 sign, it's exactly the same problem. And then we haven't done anything other than spend money for no reason. I guess the other point I had on it, which was the question I had that's been addressed before I asked it, which is great, which is that if we do this for one street, we should really be looking at all the single lane streets. If we're making a decision that one single lane street should go down from 40 to 30, I don't know how we can do it on one and not address all of them. So I was wondering what the cost would be of addressing all of them. Because we have this one street where there's been a study done on it where it says it's not going to make a difference. If you lower the speed sign, they don't think it's going to make a difference. It's not going to have the impact that's needed. So if we make that change just for change's sake, it doesn't make a difference. What are we doing? So, kind of not really a question, but it's just more of I struggle with this because I don't want to see speeders, you don't want to see anybody get hurt, you don't want to see these go on, but I really also don't want to have council make changes and spend money when we have evidence in front of us that says it's not going to do what the goal is to do. So I think looking at another option might be the best scenario, whether there is the ability to speak with the RCMP for targeted enforcement of specific speeders, whether it's a neighborhood meeting, whether it's checking numbers, I don't know if there's a solution, but I'm not certain this is it.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Bell, do you have any comments?
Yes, Your Worship. I struggle with this as well. Thought in my mind. But after hearing the CAO and also the Deputy Mayor, I do believe that this is a localized problem. We haven't had very many incidents or requests of speeding in the other one-way streets, single-way streets. So I would suggest what Deputy Mayor Toole has said. Let's inform the RCMP, ask if they can do a targeted identification of speeders. I don't know what tools they have to do that, but also encourage the residents to have their meeting, and then let's monitor the situation after that.
Thank you, Councilor Bell. So,
So you're looking for a local resolution,
yeah.
May I suggest, Your Worship, that we take the first one, Council of Town of Granby, Westfield maintaining the speed limit on Brandy Point Road at 40 kilometers an hour, period. Further, comma, their comment, that the RCMP be contacted to perform targeted enforcement, and that council encourage the neighborhood on Brandy Point Road to have a community meeting, a neighborhood meeting to discuss this local issue.
I have a motion for that resolution.
Is that acceptable?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jewell. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Natasha Lawrence. Any further debate on this motion? Councillor Jones?
Well, it said they come back to the same point again. If you're driving down a road going 40 and you don't have enough room for two cars to go by each other at 40 kilometer an hour, that's head on into 80 kilometer an hour, however they do the system. And how do you identify the speeders? You go up to ask, say they're speeding, and like neighbors be ratting each other out. I don't think that's fair for somebody to say he's speeding or pointing fingers at everybody. See, they know who the speeders are, but how do you go to tell them that they're speeders? I mean, it's an odd situation, and you're pointing people out. That's not good either, though. I mean,
Thank you, Councillor Bellman. Do we have any further debate on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Thank you. Your motion is carried. So I think we are on to item 10 bylaws, none. Item 11, new business. Item 11A is the Town of Bay-Westfield federal election position paper. And the motion is that the Town of Bay, Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield receive and file the federal election 2021 position paper. I have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. And I have a second. Thank you. Before we go to a vote, I just want to talk a little bit about the position paper. So our CAO, with consultation with members of council, developed a position paper talking about directed at our federal candidates in the upcoming election, talking about how what our priorities are and how they are connected with the pillars of our strategic plan, and all the ways that we were looking for a newly elected representative to partner with us in pushing those pillars and those priorities forward. So we held an afternoon Zoom meetings with all of our local candidates to discuss with them and get their take on the position paper and what they were willing to do in terms of partnering with the Town of Bay-Westfield on our pillars. We had the opportunity to speak with everybody, ask questions. They were able to respond to our position paper, and it was really quite a productive afternoon getting to know the different candidates. The position paper is posted on our website if anybody would like to read it. And of course, I'm not directing this to the councilors because I know they already have, but to anyone that's watching, it's really well put together. It speaks to where the Town of Bay-Westfield wants to go in the future. And I would like to thank staff for all the hard work that they put into the paper. So all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? No, the motion is carried. Item 11B, pandemic mitigation policy. Yes.
Can I ask a quick question on the last one? Is there going to be a written response by any of the candidates to the position paper, or is it going to be just what was? Are we expecting a written or?
No, it was just the meetings. That's right.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Item 11B, pandemic mitigation policy. This is a long motion, so I apologize in advance. That the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield adopt the pandemic mitigation policy. Effective September 20th, 2021, all employees are asked to demonstrate their vaccination status. A, if an employee refuses to demonstrate their vaccination status or is not fully vaccinated, then they are to comply with the non-vaccinated protocol noted below in paragraph 3. 2, all employees, regardless of vaccination status, are to stay at home when they are presenting 2 or more symptoms of COVID-19. 2A, if symptoms persist after 3 days, then the employee is to be tested. 2B, The first 3 days will not be deducted from their accrued sick time upon proof of testing. Item 3, those employees who are not fully vaccinated are to comply with the following protocols. A, new employees must test prior to their start date. 3AI, this is to be completed on the employee's time and expense. 3B, all non-vaccinated employees must test on a weekly basis once every 2 days. BI, this is to be completed on the employee's time and expense. BII, proof of testing is required. 3C, when not in their workstation or their office, or if another person enters their workstation area, or office employees must be masked at all times. 3D, if physical distancing is not possible in an outdoor or indoor setting, such as during a meeting or in a vehicle, then the employee must be masked. 3E, firefighters who are not fully vaccinated are not able to respond to calls. Any individual who presents and substantiates a valid legal justification for exemption from this paragraph on the basis of grounds listed under the New Brunswick Human Rights Code will be accommodated. 4, visitors who have meetings or walk in for a meeting with staff are to remain masked as they walk through the common areas of the town workspaces. 5, if physical distancing, 2 meters between people, can be safely maintained, then visitors may remove their masks upon sitting. Yes, John?
Your Worship, I'd just like to go back to point number 2, and with Council's permission, I'd just like to amend the latter part of that clause. Present 2 more symptoms of COVID-19 per GNB, Department of Public Health guidelines.
Per GMP, Department of Health.
And I'd just like to let Council know I don't know if I did report or not. The town associate just go through this policy yet.
Okay.
He thinks we're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Do we have a second? Councillor Balcom. I'll open the floor to discussion. Yes, Deputy Mayor Toole.
Just out of curiosity, how does this compare to other, if they're available, the policies of other municipalities?
John?
I know it's
It's been an adventure. It's been a real adventure. Part of the frustration that I experienced trying to develop something like this is the legal groundwork that we would stand on. I think I mentioned to the council in the past that I was hesitant to go forward. I didn't want to be the tip of the spear without knowing what the legal stuff was. However, the town solicitor did provide me with some on Friday, and that gave me the comfort to be able to go through here. Now, I did look at others. I looked at Okotoks, Toronto. Okotoks is a community of 18,000. Alberta, Toronto is big. And there was a couple of smaller ones that I looked at. Ours is much more simple and streamlined. The others were 6, 7, 8 pages long, and addressing things unique to their communities, especially Toronto. So I think this very much resembles the style that we did the COVID-19 operational plan in. All of point number 2 is pretty much lifted up verbatim from the operational plan. Again, the idea is to encourage good behavior. If you're sick, stay home. We don't, if it's not COVID-19, don't come to work. We don't want to take the chance. So it's been a frustrating, Deputy Mayor, to find that, but I think we have something that's reasonable.
Thank you, that's your question. Any further questions? Yes,
I just know, sorry, just asking, because I know that the fire delivery piece that firefighters not fully vaccinated, not able to respond to calls. Do we have any idea if that will negatively impact the fire delivery, or I guess probably no way to know numbers at this point?
Well, I'll just say that if I answer incorrectly, the chief will correct me to the mayor, to the deputy mayor. The reason that we don't want firefighters to respond is if they're breathing hard and heavy at an incident, trying to pull someone out of a car, we don't need to have an asymptomatic firefighter passing on COVID-19 onto someone who's already experiencing significant physical health. I understand from the chief that he doesn't have exact numbers, but I think he said over 90% were likely vaccinated. Just because we seem to have a culture here at the town where people are you vaccinated? Yeah, I'm vaccinated. You vaccinated. So as an example, the entire administration office is vaccinated, fully vaccinated. So we're fairly fortunate here in our little neck of the woods. I can't speak for somewhere else.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any further questions? I just want to, before we go to vote, I just want to state that it's our responsibility to protect our staff and the public as much as possible. And with the new variants coming and the spread of COVID-19 and the specter of a fourth wave coming, it's important for us to take these steps to protect the people around us, and of course the vulnerable who are actually unable to get vaccinated at this point, including our children. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? The motion is carried. Item 11C, Local Economic Development Plan. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield authorize the mayor and CAO to enter in an agreement with EBP Principal Chris Steele for the development of a local economic development plan not to exceed $29,700. May I have a motion? Thank you. And second?
Second.
Councillor Balcom. And if I can speak before we get to the vote, this the scope of work and the quality and number of deliverables of this economic development plan are exactly what we need to help move Bay-Westfield forward. Economic development is important. It speaks to our one of the most important pillars we have: population growth and financial sustainability. And the fact that this firm has done previous work for University of St. John has important synergy for our economic development plan. The other important thing to consider is that the deliverables are going to come fast, and many of them are going to come in time for our budget deliberations, so that we actually put this ahead of the game for 2022 instead of waiting for 2023 to move on some of the items that hopefully that they'll put forward to us as things that we want to do. This report will basically give us a real roadmap to effectively plan for growth. So, John, do you have anything further to add to that?
Yeah, I think we have about 40 different documents that we'll be sharing with EVP should council approve this. And a lot of them have collected dust. Not to point a finger to any one person, we're a small organization, we're a lean organization. It's tough to get stuff done. However, having a review of different committees that have done work in the past, good work as well. Further, I just want to say that part of the outcome is how do we align the town of Bay-Westfield, that is the corporation, to get the work done. Is it redesigning jobs? Is it a new job? We don't know. I think at this time it's appropriate to go out to experts who can synthesize all the previous reports that have been done and say what makes sense, what's the sequence that we should be doing it. That's a skill level that we don't have in town, and I don't know that it's a skill level that we could find if we were to hire someone to do this type of work.
Thank you. Discussion on.
John, you just answered this, but I appreciate that the report will provide us with crucial information. But moving forward, the price tag of $30,000, maybe it would be prudent to look at the cost effectiveness of having an economic development communication person on staff.
Okay. Trying to understand your question, so I apologize for hesitating. So this will lay a groundwork for us to move forward, and perhaps there is a need, which my bias, intuition suggests that we do need someone in that dev. I'd also like to bring the council in the near future to an RFP to do a communications and marketing plan for the strategic plan. I prefer to have that done this year, even though we have a budgeted for it, so we can implement it in 2022. And then we'll see what that may look like. just based on our resources, it makes sense to try and do both or do 2 part-time positions. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right, I don't want to prescribe what the consultant should tell us.
Councillor Balcom is, as chair of the Population Growth and Financial Sustainability Pillar, do you have anything to add to the discussion?
Yes, Your Worship. I had the privilege of looking at the proposal and response from the consultant. I think it's excellent value for our town. The synergy, as you mentioned, with the work that they've already done with Envision St. John, the left hand will know what the right hand is doing. The left hand will know what the right hand's capability is from their gap analysis, and the fact that they can deliver in time for us to make, as a council, decisions for our upcoming budget for next year is fantastic. We've just gained a year. So I fully support council. I will be voting in favor of this, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Do we have any further discussion on the item? All right,
I just mentioned to council that he discount this work for us.
that's true, we did. Yes, and that's, our CEO helped get us a good deal on this, so thanks you, John. So all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. It's exciting. Okay. Item D, Planning Advisory Committee Vice Chair. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file a memorandum from the Planning Advisory Committee regarding the elected Vice Chair. And the elected Vice Chair is Teresa Gordon, and she is replacing me. I used to be the Vice Chair, but I had to step down due to my new responsibilities. Do we have a motion? Thank you. Dean O'Toole, second. Mr. Balcom. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Congratulations, Teresa, on your new role. Item E, GMB, working together for vibrant, sustainable communities, what we heard. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the Working Together for Vibrant, Sustainable Communities, what we heard document. I have a motion. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, second. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Just some background on this. Back in June, all the municipalities were asked to submit a position paper on their priorities for local government reform. The Town of Grand Bay-Westfield worked very hard on theirs, and it was submitted to Minister Danielle Alain in time for the deadline. So this paper includes basically a summary of what New Brunswickers at municipalities, local service districts, etc. shared. So it includes sections on what people said about the current structure, what everyone said about regional collaboration, land use planning, financing, which is a big one. So I encourage everyone, if you haven't already read it, to read it. Local government reform is going to be a very big issue, not just this year, but in the next few years. So it's important to read what New Brunswickers think and what New Brunswickers shared. And if you haven't already read our paper, it is on our website, isn't it, John? What we submitted?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, and it would also be, I believe, on the Vibrant New Brunswick Local Government Reform website as well. So, the paper is, it's very interesting reading. It talks about, what municipalities want, what the LSDs want, how the local service districts and municipalities can work together, potentially how the regional service commissions can either be empowered with more administrative might or take on more service delivery options. And I know that staff and council have been very involved in this process right from the beginning. John, do you have, can you add?
anything to,
No, I don't know that I can add, except the province seems very serious about this.
Yeah, it does. It's been clear that everyone in the what we heard document and the ministers themselves have said status quo is not an option, and we need to look at change for New Brunswick, not only to be sustainable, but to become a have province from a have not province. So, and I know Councillor Balcom, this is probably key to your pillar. Do you have anything to add about how you felt about what was in the paper?
I'm glad that we made our submission as we did, and nothing further to add.
So I guess if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item F, request for debentures. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield authorize the Mayor and CAO to issue and sell to the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation a Municipality of Bay-Westfield debenture in the principal amount of $397,000 on such terms and conditions as are recommended by the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation, and be it resolved that the municipality of Bay-Westfield agree to issue post-dated checks payable to the New Brunswick Finance Corporation as and when they are requested in payment of principal and interest charges on the above debenture. I have a motion. Thank you. I have a second. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Some background on this debenture. So the debenture is, I've got the definition right here, is a marketable security, which is a type of investment issued by a business or other organization to raise money for long-term activities and growth. Excuse me. So this debenture actually is prudent financial.
Your Worship, would you let me just explain this a little bit?
Thank you.
Sorry. This debenture actually started its life in 2015. The council today and administration were awarded a grant to pay for some environmental health stuff, which is the sewer. And I don't know the exact amount that was. So they did that, and the work started in 2016. So what happened is each year that project was done, the town took on a short-term loan to cover that. There was 1 year where the town was $150,000 able to pay that outright instead of taking a short-term loan. So what's happened since 2016 is we've accumulated a bunch of short-term loans up to $400,000. So what's going to happen now? And I think when I moved here and I discovered this, I thought, this is brilliant. This is really good. Instead of us going to the Scotiabank and saying, we need a loan to pay for sewer upgrades, and they say, yeah, we're happy to do it. We'll charge you 4%. Well, what the province does is it takes all the loans that municipalities across the province may need, and they put them in a bundle, and they go to the market and say, hey, guess what we have for you? This is great debt, 100% payable because they're municipalities. They have taxpayers. They don't default. And so what they do is they'll bid on it. So instead of bidding high, we'll pay you 4.1% because Scotia's paying you 4%. They'll say, I'll pay you 2.6%. Somebody will say, I'll take it for 2.5%. So that's how we end up getting a discounted rate. And that's what the debenture is at the end of the day. It's the province pools all the debt, goes to the market and say it's just as an X number, it's $100 million. You're going to get a better rate at $100 million than you will at $10 million. It's going to be cheaper. But our share will just be this. So that's why the province goes this route. I think it's smart. It's great for municipalities. And but I forgot to say that when they started in 2015, they got the loan part, got the grant. Part of the grant was how is this going to be financed? The council today said, well, we're going to finance it through debt. But then when they did that, they have to go to the capital borrowing board. Excuse me, now I need water. And then they approve it, and then everything can go forward. So now we're no longer carrying the short-term loan. Our financing costs are going to go down a little marginally because we're getting a discounted rate. And just for council's information, in 2022, our total, debt load on the utility fund, which is environmental health, sewer, will be $1.2 million. For 2022 in the general capital, our total amount is going to be $1.5 million. So our total debt load right now is $2.7 million. And that's higher than some communities and lower than others. That's all I'll say about the debt load. Now, maybe someone asks, if I could indulge me a little bit, why do we do loans? Why do we carry debt? So there's different philosophies in how you want to pay for capital projects. And this one is a reflection of a user pay. You know, that it'll be the users of the system going forward who pay for that infrastructure, not the people in the past who may not be paying for it through their savings. So when you build up reserves, you know, that gives you more leverage, but it's the people who've contributed to that who are paying for something in the future. Debt is a little bit more expensive usually, or sometimes a lot more expensive, and it's the actual users of the product of that day who are paying for it. So it's user pay versus a general funding of the project.
Right, so
Is that clear, or did I lose everybody?
yeah, so it's, I mean, that's something to consider too as we go forward in terms of how we're going to pay for projects in the future. And by issuing this debenture, we'll end up, I mean, the town's been carrying the cost through short-term loans since 2016 at a higher interest rate. This will drop the interest rate by about half, is that correct?
I don't.
Depends on what they sell a debenture.
And what the Scotia Bank, I don't know the specifics, so I can't comment. I just use it as an example, and it may be close to that, but I'm not certain of that.
But it will be less.
It'll be less.
Do we have any questions on the motion?
I just have a comment, we appreciate that was a good explanation. Anything that lowers the cost of pouring is a win, so thank you.
Yeah, I think so, and I'm actually glad I had the coughing fit because I think you explained that more clearly to not only to us, but everybody that's watching, because, you know, debenture isn't part of everyday life, so it's important that everybody actually knows what they are because it's the tax dollars that we're spending, so. Any other questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 11G, dog control services contract renewal. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the mayor and CAO to sign the dog control services confirmation letter with Ann Savoy for $15,000 for the year 2022. I have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. I have a second. Thank you, Councillor McIntosh. I just want to say that I know that the dog control service officer it's not an easy job. So I want to thank Anne for taking that on. We have any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 11H is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. And the motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt September 30th as a new municipal holiday in recognition of the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation established by the Government of Canada as part of the 94 calls to action set by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 2015. Further, that the town of Grand Bay-Westfield operate as it does in other statutory holidays, meaning town hall will be closed on September 30th as well as other non-essential services that normally are not provided on statutory holidays. We have a motion. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Second. Thank you, Stephanie. I'll open the floor. Open the floor for discussion. Any comments on the motion?
Your worship,
Yes.
is it possible that, similar to what our town did on July 1st, that some visible display on this day only could be replicated such that it isn't perceived by some to just be another day off, that we are physically in our face reminded of the intent of that day?
Thank you for your comment. Reminded. Motion is carried. I just want to make a remark on the motion, the resolution. It's just that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield is committed to reconciliation and ensuring that the tragic history, current trauma, and ongoing legacy of residential schools is never forgotten. We have previously committed to move forward with the recommendations from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report relevant to municipalities. We proudly stand in solidarity with Indigenous members and communities across Turtle Island in the pursuit of truth and reconciliation. Thank you to all. Item 11I, and that is the letter from Shelley Burke regarding the Thanksgiving event in Grand Bay-Westfield called Adorable Doors. Would you help me with the resolution?
That the Council of the Town of Grand Bay Westfield support the IODE's initiative to host an Adorable Doors contest in 2021.
As background, maybe I'll just read the letter.
I think it's just sign.
Yeah.
I can do that if you'd like.
Okay, sure.
The IODE is, I've forgotten what that stands for.
International Order of
Daughters of the Empire.
Daughters of the Empire, that's what it is.
That's right, yes. They do charity work to support women and children. And so as a fundraising effort, they want to have a contest to be peaked at Thanksgiving about who has the best looking door based on wreaths, and they would go around and judge it. That's why I asked council to include it tonight. If we did it the 27th, that's too little time for them to advertise for.
So may I have a motion? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, that'll be cute. I look forward to seeing all the adorable doors. Okay, item 12, bills for payment. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the September 13th, 2021 bills for payment as presented in the amount for $698,650.51. May I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. May I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. I'll open the floor for discussion. Does anybody have any questions about the bills for payment? Stephanie.
Of course. Sorry.
Yes. No, don't be sorry. It's just, like we said before, if you have questions, like we all have questions, it's important that you ask them.
Okay, and number 16, pest management.
Okay, so
If they're a local company, we have a contract with them. I know we've used critter gators in the past, and I know they are local.
So we use both. Both are local.
They are.
And this is, I believe, an annual, there it is. This is an annual contract, and usually it's around the dog park, but for bees and wasps and removals of that type. So,
17 Brewster's Machine Shop, I'm just wondering what we had advertised.
do you remember this council approved repairs for the trickling
Yeah.
filter station up on Highland? They manufactured the gear for that.
I have a comment only on 20 to 34 with Dylan. I just noticed a lot of money being spent on consulting, and while I understand the importance of this, I am looking forward to the municipal services review to determine bringing some of that in-house would be in the town's best interest. This is the comment. Yes, please.
Engineering always seems to suck up a lot of money, and my little experience, I haven't seen too many councils happy about it. However, with engineering, you can have someone great at bat, but you need bench strength in engineering. You need a variety of expertise ranging from hydraulics all the way over to mechanical, over to civil. And then somebody who does a bridge is different than somebody who builds a road. You really need breadth of service and also depth of service. And you can't bring that in-house. Even when I was in Kindersley, where we had an engineer in-house, we still spent a lot of money on consulting engineers because he's just one person. And however, there are some things that Dylan does do that I would like to bring in-house, more on the administrative side. Currently, we don't have the capacity to bring that stuff in-house, but we'll do the review and we'll see what we can bring in. But some of the engineering stuff itself, that's really challenging to bring in unless, you have your city of St. John, they probably still contract out some engineering services.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Just one more, 36, Four Seasons Sports, the 46,000, is that the lines on the road?
Yeah, without Ingleside. So if you could just make sure when you're driving down Ingleside that one tire touches a line, do that.
That's the airway out.
Inglewood.
Inglewood, what did I say?
Inglewood.
Okay, Inglewood, yeah, that's right.
39, the storm sewer project. Could you just explain a little bit about what's involved for 466?
So I'll give an overview, and then if I miss anything, the Works Commissioner will step in. I believe that covers Timberley, Birchie, and Highland. And the fundamental scope of that project is overland drainage. We live on the side of a mountain. The water, because we have people with homes, doesn't always go where it should go. So what the Works Commissioner has been doing for about 10 years, give or take, been methodically addressing the overland drainage issues by curb and gutter and re-asphalting roads. So that's what's been going on. That's what the 466,000 covered. However, they noticed, was it Timberley?
It was on the Timberley.
Yeah, Timberley, they noticed last year that the base was having problems. So this year they went in and they corrected the base. So when you drove over it, it was spongy. You don't want spongy roads, that's a bad thing. So they reconstructed that. Did I miss anything, or are we good on that one?
Oh, you're good. I guess maybe just a little more, because it was sort of like a 2-year project to do that, is last year they did curbing on the Timberley, but when they did that, that's when they found the soft spots. So this year, because again, is they put new curbing on Timberley. There was existing asphalt curbing that was deteriorated on Birchie where the water problem was, but we had to get the downstream water source looked after, or the infrastructure, so we could take the water from the top of the hill down to the bottom. So it was a 2-year sort of phase. We had curb, which was new on Timberley. This year, we replaced the curb on Birchie, because it was asphalted and deteriorated, so now it's concrete. And then picked the storm sewer up and brought it back to Timberley. But because of the work we did last year on Timberley, we found the soft spots. We had to fix that this year and then resurface it. And then we went over to Highland Road and resurfaced that, so.
That's a big check to sign, I know.
Yeah. 58, the Ivan's camera. I'm assuming that's the new equipment we're using to better broadcast our meetings.
Yes.
And last one, 113 Stone Soup. I'm just wondering how many cupcakes we got for $2,800.
Apparently not enough. We received 800 cupcakes. And I understand that some of that price includes some of their social causes. However, that will be something that we need to review next year. But yeah, so it's 800 cupcakes, about $350 each, I think, something like that.
Yeah, so it's fantastic.
I just have one quick clarification, the 466, that one, is it usual to have that paid all at once? Like, I figured you'd see that kind of paid out over time, but
Well, I
I think
think-
it's just the number that shocked, like, I
Yeah, I
don't know, it's a
know.
long-term project.
Yeah, no, if I recall correctly, this is actually 2 bills. They forgot because they do progress reports, right? And that's usually where you see the smaller amount. Well, they forgot to send us the progress report in August. And so we got the second progress report at the beginning of September, and Marcia's question was, well, what happened to the first one? So then they realized, oh, we forgot to send it to you. So that's I think that's the bill that happened too. So yeah, you're right, normally we wouldn't see the whole thing. And there was a holdback on that too, so.
Do you have any, yes, Councillor
Number
Belvin?
95. The refund, the reimbursement?
Number 95,
Yes. Reimbursement.
So what is your question?
What was it for, reimbursement?
John?
yeah, I don't know. Can you look that up?
And 97.
No, just one at a time,
Oh,
please.
okay, sorry.
Oh, okay,
You can remember that.
had to get the name. I have the answer.
Oh, you did? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, it's on Valentine. What happened there, he's just like a resident, but there was a problem with the driveway culvert. So we repaired the driveway culvert, tore up the asphalt, and it was there, and we're getting ready to pave. He wanted to pave his whole driveway and wanted to go all the way over, and we said, sure. And he wanted us to, or asked if we would reimburse him for the part that we were gonna pave anyways.
Okay.
So he had his driveway paved, sent the bills in, we did the math as to how much it was our portion.
Okay.
So we reimbursed him for the portion, we were gonna pave anyways.
Okay.
We already had it dug up and
Okay. Okay.
we just reimbursed him for
Yeah,
that.
97. The washing machine.
Washing machine?
Yeah, 97.
I'll defer to the chief on this one, but we have specialized equipment that needs to be washed, so.
Yeah, so the bunker gear that we purchased for the firefighters, which is $3,000 a set, has very specific washing instructions.
Right.
According to NFPA, and the best way to maintain that gear is to have the best washing machine for it, and that's what that is. But it'll also do
Anything.
anything.
Okay.
It's basically a commercial
The
washing
washing,
machine.
yeah, that's great.
I'm just gonna say, Your Worship, we don't want to compromise the integrity of our firefighters.
No.
They're volunteers.
That's good.
No, and it's an investment, the equipment's an investment, so we have to take care of it. I have a question about, what's more of an illustration of item 24, Kodiak printing. For the, those are the street signs. So we have, I'm sure people have noticed that the Woolstock street signs have gone up on Woolstock and Nericus. So I thought that I would ask our Works Commissioner, I know some of them have been oriented the way that you would naturally think that they would be oriented. So John, would you be able to
So I'll do a brief summary, Your Worship, and then I'll turn it over to the Works Commissioner. We're putting signs on top of the posts, and it's a narrow post, maybe 1.5 or 2 inches
2 inches.
square. And so we're limited in what we can do. And so the signs are placed according to the brackets that are used for these signs. And the Works Commissioner has brought some of the brackets and the signs so you can see the limitations we have in trying to line stuff up with the way you'd like them to be lined up. And of course, part of the factor too is the wind and balance and stuff like that. But I'll turn it over to the Works Commissioner.
and I don't know if, does Kenneth Cameron see the Works Commissioner from there, or should he come over here? Or is he more visible in the camera?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because if we're demonstrating,
If you put them over at the.
Yeah, I would say at the podium, you should be good.
it would be nice to.
You're okay, whatever that's.
Yeah, I guess a teaching on street sign is, usually on the pole, whether it's a round pole, or we have a Telspar, which is a 2-inch diameter pole, and it has a cap that goes on it that you put a original sign on the top, so it goes in one direction, whichever way you wish to go. And then the second sign will go on top of that at 90 degrees, so it's a crisscross. So it goes on top, so you're like limited, one sign goes this direction, the one on top goes in the opposite. That's just the way signs are currently, and I did a Google search, there's no adapter to go straight on straight. That doesn't say that we couldn't necessarily make one, but that comes into another problem, because then your sign gets higher, and then the winds, it has a larger wind surface for two signs in the same direction. Just if you'd like to see one of the signs, we have signs, both sides. If you notice, it's white and it's brown leather. And the intent, or I understood that this was sort of an information sign to go along with that. I just happen to have a couple signs, street sign. Just happen to have these ones. So this would go on the bottom, or say, for example, Allen Street, so it goes in one direction. Your crisscross would go on top. That doesn't fit exactly, but and then your Woolstock would go there. So depending, so that's where we ran into some problems, is depending on the number of signs, and the crisscross, the sign either went this way or that way, and that you had to go through. So we had to put the street signs on, and some didn't end up correct. And I shouldn't say incorrect, because it's not a street sign. It's on a street named Lake, but it's not a street sign. So the street signs are in the right direction. This sign, depending on how the numbers were, it didn't necessarily end up in the right direction. So that's why some of the comments were made through there. Because we are limited that the sign needs to be at 90 degrees from one to the other.
Thank you, Bruce. I know we discussed this a little bit earlier, but are there potential solutions? And I know that there are limitations to what you can do, with wind being an issue, etc., that we can look at to align them.
We can look at it to see, because again, a lot of not all signs are the same. For example, because again, we have a lot on Woolstock Drive that when you come up to it, we have the acidic numbers to tell the emergency responders to go left. So that's like another sign on top of that to tell them. So we can look at, I guess, each case individually. There may be some easy answers. And I'll say, for example, down at the very start of Woolstock Drive, we just had the one sign that said Woolstock Drive. But so when we had Woolstock there, this one went up. So we could put another sign that needs to be River Valley and Woolstock, and then it would end up in the right direction. So we could look at the ones that aren't what people assume to be in the right direction and see if we can fix those. But there may be some that just don't work nice.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate the presentation and the props. And
I just wanted to reiterate that, as you mentioned, these are acknowledgement signs. They are, anybody that has an address on Woolstock or Nericus, the different spelling does not affect your mailing or your postal or anything along those lines at all. So you still have your same legal spelling on your address. This is just to acknowledge the traditional Maliseet spelling of the words as it should be.
Thanks.
Okay. I'll just leave it.
Do we have any more questions on the item? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Item 13, consent agenda. A, capital project status report, September 2021. B, notice to municipalities, schedule, elections, and B. C, welcome letter, Canadian Commission for UNESCO. D, Crime Prevention Association of New Brunswick. E, letter re colonial racist art installation at the Canada Games Aquatic Centre. F, PAC minutes of April 19th, 2021. G, Cascade reports, September 10th, 2021. That the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda reports.
You have a motion?
Councilor Brown, thank you.
Second. Thank you, Councilor McIntosh Lawrence. Any discussion on the motion? Oh, John?
I have one question, to the American CEO. There's one on ATV integration, where you were meeting with the CAO in Riverview to discuss their ATV policy. I'm just wondering if you were able to do that and if you're able to share your findings.
Wednesday. Yeah.
So that meeting hasn't.
No, it hasn't happened yet, that's right.
Thank you.
And to the best, last time I talked to the CAO review, that was still a work in progress, but that was, I think I spoke to them 3 or 4 weeks ago, it's been on all this.
John?
Your worship, consent agenda is there for council and for the public. I just like to say that the way the consent agenda works is usually these are items that don't require a decision. If you feel that there's something in there that you want to discuss and make a decision on, ask to pull it out, preferably at the beginning of the agenda. The beginning when we approve the agenda, pull it out then as a separate item, and then we can suspend it because we get used to it now if you want to pull something out. So what happens is all these things will just have, all these items will have one mover, one seconder, and then if you look at the minutes that you approved at the beginning of the meeting, it had consent agenda, it had a list of the resolutions. So even though we didn't discuss the resolutions, all the resolutions are there. And then it says end of consent agenda end, or I've forgotten how we worded it. But anyways, it identifies the end of consent agenda. That's it. So just one mover, one seconder for items that typically aren't debatable items.
So, John, I have a question on that. So the consent agenda items, will they be posted to the website with the minutes?
Yeah, they are part of the agenda, part of the minutes.
Okay.
Because so when you look at the minutes you approved, I think our minutes are 8 or 9 pages.
Yeah. Well, I just want to make sure, you know, if
Yes.
people want to read what's in the consent agenda, they're able to do so. So all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 14, council reports. This is my favorite agenda item last time, until I was railroad and realized I had to do one too. All right, so we'll I guess we'll go alphabetically this time. Councillor Bell.
Your worship, 2 committees that I have the privilege of sitting on. I'll talk about the first one, which is PAC. I attended my first real PAC meeting where a real item was discussed. It was enlightening, and I look forward to training that all PAC members will be receiving later this week. This is Monday, isn't it? So I forget my agenda, but it's Wednesday. In the evening. And with regard to the other committee, the population growth, that very much is in line with the overall strategic plan, but also, of course, with the motion that we approved tonight for the economic development study by a consultant. And I look forward to some participation with the consultant at that point in time. And talking with the CAO to add some breadth to our committee. And I think it would be wise for us to have the economic development report as a starting point. That can help identify us for our committee what skill sets we may require. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for your work, Councillor Bell. Councillor Bellman, you're up.
Well, our last meeting, I went on 2 trips with Pro Kids for the event, and we made a few amount of money. So when we made the redneck race, we made $3,200 on raffle tickets and barbecue. And at the golf tournament, we sold raffle tickets and whatever the rate was over 30,000. So together about $33,000. So it's good. There was a different thing for me. Me and my better half went together and we did sell tickets and what a crowd there at the Redneck Racing. What an event that was. Different.
That's great.
Yeah, a lot of dust. That's all.
Thank you, John. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
So I had the privilege in August to golf in the Chamber of Commerce golf tournament, and I did some networking there, so that was fun. I also had the honor of planning and hosting, along with the mayor, deputy mayor, and Council Malcolm, staff appreciation barbecue for the town staff here. I have been asked to sit on a board of, as a member of municipal government for a new initiative coming to our area. It's the Community Inclusion Network, and they work to reduce poverty and help people become more self-sufficient. There are 3 main pillars focused on mental health, food security, and transportation. So I attended my first meeting at the end of August. So I'm really excited about that initiative in our area. Finally, I'm on the board of the RBCC, and we held a special meeting recently to decide what to do about space in the community center that's recently become vacant. So a request for expressions of interest has gone into the community. So we're waiting on those responses, and at our next meeting we'll decide what we're going to do with that space.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you for your work.
So during August and September, it was kind of about the era of the Regional Facilities Commission. So that's a commission that's made up of representatives from St. John, Wisconsin, Rossay, and Bay-Westfield to discuss the budgets of the shared regional facilities as we'll call them. The Park Center, Imperial Field, Theater, Trade Convention Center, Art Center. But I was appointed as chair of that commission, so that was a quick way to jump in. And we held 3 meetings to review the budgets of the entities, and also to talk about process and procedure, because much like this council, that is all new people on that commission as well. So that's been a bit of work, but it's been a really good learning experience, and excellent networking with other members of councils and other mayors. So that has been great. We have another meeting next week, and then that'll be an agenda I'll be bringing forward to the commission to approve those budgets for those facilities. So that is the main one I've been working on. We do have the strategic pillars. We're organizing, everybody on the councils here are organizing meetings for their strategic pillars that they're in charge of. And mine is the organizational capacity, and not the sexy one, but it is an important one. So we're looking forward to starting kind of a planning meeting on how to move that forward. I believe that's next week. So thank you, town staff, for setting that up and giving us a product to get.
Thank you. That's really great work. I appreciate everything that you're all doing. You're getting out in the community, you're talking to people, you're pushing things forward behind the scenes, you're working with staff. I know it's a lot, and thank you very much. So I guess it's my turn, and I'll try and keep it brief, but it's been busy. I guess it's I'm still working on completing the University of Alberta's Indigenous Canada course. I'm probably halfway through the modules, but I still have more work to do. It's been very enlightening, very interesting. It's a free course. If anybody wants to sign up, you can do that. It doesn't cost anything, and you learn a lot. I know that all staff and council have committed to do that as part of our path towards truth reconciliation. So I'm very proud of everyone for working on that. The 2 resolutions that we passed at our passed by council our August 9th meeting for the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick have been accepted by the UMNB panel to be put forward at the AGM in October. So
both were accepted with very little editing, and so that's pretty exciting. It's important for us to have a voice in how our provincial association is going to advocate for issues at a provincial level. So that was really amazing news. The two resolutions are surrounding municipal risk management. We discussed some of the limitations to the current model that we have now during our meeting tonight, and future provincial policing. One of the other things that I got to do was I went to Elsipogtog with the Envision team and other regional officials to tour the new design-built school up there. That tour will assist us in knowing what elements to advocate for when moving forward with our school file, which is the #1 priority for us. A federally built school is untethered to provincial standards, so it really gives you an eye to what is possible, and it will inform us moving forward should we get to the point where we're actually advocating for the design of a school here in Bay-Westfield. I've had several meetings with regional RCMP officials to discuss service delivery and to advocate for level of service at our local level. I will continue to do that to make sure that our residents are getting the level of service that we pay for and that we deserve. Regional collaboration and relationship building has been an important priority for me. I've attended several meetings with our regional mayors and partners. In order for us to be successful, we must work together, and I'll continue to work towards positive and fruitful relationships. These relationships between MLAs, whoever our MP is going to be, mayors, deputy mayors, councillors, all of these relationships are going to be really important with our LSD representatives, moving forward with local government reform, with regional collaboration, all of those things. It takes a lot of time, but it is an investment that's well worth it. And these are really great people, so I'm happy to know them and be able to work with them. I had the opportunity to tour the Purple Heart Project with Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. This is a project run by a local resident, Rob Cosman, and I also had the opportunity to speak to the first post-COVID class of war-wounded vets. It's amazing to have an initiative like that here in our community. This was the first all-Canadian class of war-wounded vets, and basically a lot of these vets deal with situations like PTSD and isolation, and Rob teaches them how to deal with these issues through handheld woodworking and how to use those tools. So it was a very moving presentation. It was really amazing. The other thing that I was really privileged to be a part of was a surprise Make-A-Wish announcement to a local family, and our fire department was also a part of it. The child that was being awarded the wish is she's very sensory oriented, so having a fire truck show up was really a big deal, and I can't even begin to tell you how good it feels to be a part of something like that, and just on the periphery. So as we mentioned earlier in the meeting, we developed a position paper for our local federal candidates and held all-day Zoom meetings basically to hear how each candidate responded to the paper, their position on advocacy for our local priorities, and how they plan to help us move Bay-Westfield forward. It's very positive meetings, a lot of energy on the part of the candidates, and I look forward to working with whoever our new MP is going to be. We also had a Zoom meeting, the CEO and I had a Zoom meeting with the president of WorkSafe to talk about our local priorities and how we can work together on potential products. And we had the opportunity, the CEO and I, to tour the actual facility in October. So that's going to be interesting. As mayor, I sit on the Funding Region Service Commission, much as the deputy mayor sits on the Regional Services Commission. It's been a busy month with that work, as it's budget time there as well. And as chair, I'm fairly involved in that process in the budget review. Let's hope I don't cough again.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear my update?
No, I can't hear you.
I can't read my writing? Yeah. And there have been all kinds of other things. I've gone to
grand openings such as our energy offices in St. John, the SMR initiative may be important for us here in Grand Bay-Westfield from a potential population growth, if we have more people move in, as well as a potential for supply chain opportunities. So
that relationship building opportunity is important. And as always, there are reports to read, which I secretly love, as I mentioned before,
and to share with council, again, sorry about that. Emails, calls, meetings with engaged residents about initiatives they want to put forward or concerns they have. I'm very proud of the hard work and the good work council and our leadership team has accomplished so far. I mean, our CAO and I were talking today, like June, July, August, 3 months. We've accomplished a lot in those 3 months, and like developing and adopting our strategic plan, standing up our strategic pillar priority committees, developing our implementation plan that we're in the process of, furthering the Parks and Rec Master Plan, just to name a few of the things that we're doing. And that doesn't even include things like our local government reform submission, there's been a lot. None of these things are simple or easy, but absolutely crucial to ensure our town grows thoughtfully, sustainably, and successfully. And as always, I'm absolutely privileged to be in this position. That's my update. Okay. So item 15, business arising from committee of the whole. There being none. Item 16, adjournment. I have a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Second, Councilor Bellman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you, everybody.